Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Social Media Watercooler. My name is Pierre Coupet, and I am the founder and host of Social Media Watercooler. I want to thank you for being here and for being a part of this social media experience. And why don't we go ahead and begin with our very first presentation. I know I have let me back up a little bit. The theme of today's presentation is the best way to make use of social media water cooler. I know I've already outlined at great length at last week's event what social media water cooler is all about, what it's for, and what we can do on it. However, that being said, most of us operate on automatic mode. In other words, we approach every single message that we receive with preconceived notions about the message itself, so that regardless of the type of message, the content of the message, and the length of the message, our mind is predisposed to hear and accept a message that you, the messenger, never conveyed. That means just about every damn thing that you say or write flies right out of people's mind just as fast as it goes in. And that's because most of us have an attention span of zero or near zero. So, in other words, it really doesn't matter what you say or do. People are going to hear what they want to hear or believe what they want to believe about what it is that they think that you're doing. If you don't keep pounding on the same message over and over until people finally come around and begin to pay attention to what you're saying or doing. And that's why in marketing and advertising, there's this golden rule that says repetition is key. In order to get somebody's attention to your products and services, they need to hear your message at least 7 times before it finally begins to sink in. So you need to make effective use of images, logos, colors, font styles, catchphrases, slogan, etc. It's all part of that branding. So over and over until people get to a point where they can begin to associate a certain product, service, message, logo, or image with your company or organization. Otherwise, you've just wasted your marketing and advertising dollars. And that's also why governments make extensive use of propaganda, mind control, and mind manipulation tools and techniques in order to communicate with and control the masses, we the people. Otherwise, they would never be able to get our attention and be able to control us, okay, the way that they want to. I know This is beginning to sound like some sort of political discourse, okay? But it's not. Be patient. And the way that they control us, and this is where the global mainstream media comes into play with respect to that repetition, messaging. It's through the news, the shows, and the movies that we see, the manufactured events that are promoted to us in order to reinforce a particular message, and the real events that are hidden from us because, for one reason or another, our leaders believe that we are too dumb and stupid and irrational and primitive to be exposed to or to be able to deal with the truth, and that such exposure would cause widespread panic, chaos, or mayhem among us. They tend to believe, not tend to believe, they do believe that we are a bunch of children who have to be taken care of and lied to for our own good, the way that a lot of parents raise their children. In other words, everything is carefully planned and coordinated in order to ensure a particular outcome because governments can't count on us to think on our own for ourselves and be in control of our own lives. And of course, the same thing goes with politicians. That's why politicians use pretty much the same tools that marketers and governments use in order to bullshit us over and over and over. And guess what? For the most part, it works each and every time. A good example of that, a good proof of that, is that the election process, wherever in the world that people participate in an election, that's the proof. That's not only convincing proof, but that is also irrefutable evidence that we refused to think on our own for ourselves and be in control of our own lives. You would think that people would finally wake up and say, hey, that's where a politician gets up and starts talking during the election process, of course. So you would think that people would finally wake up and say, hey, what a load of crap. These guys, meaning these men and women, they all say the same thing over and over. They do the same thing when they get in office over and over. They give us the same results over and over. Things like war, injustice, murder, oppression, repression, famine, lies and omissions, wholesale corruption at every single level and branch of government, deception on a grand scale through false flag operations, etc. And if you don't know what I mean by false flag operations, that means you are being 100% controlled by your government, and that you are also susceptible to being controlled by every nefarious force and malevolent entity out there. In other words, you are ripe for the picking by anyone who would want to control you. And yet, for many hundreds and thousands of years, after many hundred and thousands of years, people still continue to participate in the same farcical exercise, what I call going to the same carnival over and over, expecting to get different results. And by that I mean a different breed of leaders, different set of values, different set of priorities, different outcomes that would result in peace, justice, and prosperity around the globe. So let me know when we've gotten these outcomes, because it's never going to happen. Not in this lifetime, if we continue to do the same thing that we are doing. You can expect different results when you're doing the same thing. All right, so you would think that by now, we the people would have had plenty of time to figure it all out and say, no more. The joke is no longer on us. You can now play this game on your own and all by yourself. Well, that's really wishful thinking. Not in this lifetime. That's because the game goes on and on. All right, now that you've just heard a nice political speech, it's really not political, because I'm telling the truth. If it were political, then you'd be hearing a whole bunch of lies and fabrications. So I know that for quite a number of you, I can imagine what's going through your head right now, this very second. You're probably wondering or want to say to me, Pierre, for the sake of argument, let's assume that everything you said, that you just said, is true. But what the hell does that have to do with social media water cooler? Or what does social media water cooler have anything to do with all that? I just want to know more about social media water cooler and not about how regular people are getting screwed because they have an attention span of 0, which makes them susceptible to being manipulated by those tactics that marketers use, that politicians use, that governments use, and so on. Well, it really has a lot to do with it. I used such an extreme example, such shocking example, in order to prepare you in advance for what I want to tell you and what I have already told you about social media water cooler. So that I can wake you up from the deep hypnotic trance that I know every one of us is in. And by the way, I am no exception to the rule. When it comes to absorbing new information or taking advantage of new opportunities, no matter how great and awesome they may be, or they are. So let me illustrate to you what I've been talking about with a small number of anecdotal stories. But before I start telling you each individual story, let me go ahead and set the stage for you with this little bit of information. In every single invitation that I send out to my social network connections, group members, friends, colleagues, and associates, I make absolutely sure that I tell all of them, number one, exactly what social media water cooler is all about. Number two, the awesome opportunities that I make available to them through this platform. Number three, how to obtain more information through various links. And number four, how to sign up and take advantage of what social media water cooler is offering to them free of charge. But I also provide that same information to others who contact me for whatever reasons. And who are these people who contact me? Who are these other people? Salespeople. I'm sure you get a lot of email as well from salespeople trying to sell you something, from marketers. I get it from people who approach me out of the blue, meaning out of nowhere, trying to sell me something and want to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me. How about old friends and acquaintances who contact me and say, Pierre, let's have lunch? Really, it's just a nicer way of saying, hey, I want to talk to you about something, a business proposition, or whatever. And I'd rather do it over lunch. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Back in my old brick and mortar days, that was customary. Rarely, and I mean very rarely, did we call each other out of the blue just to go eat or drink if we didn't have something to talk about that was business related or had to do with requesting some sort of personal favor. Again, I want to make this very clear. I'm not referring to close friends, only old friends, colleagues, and associates. Although today, in the virtual organization world that I exist, I can no longer afford to do that. In fact, I turn down all such offers. It's just no longer practical. Why? That's because if you need to talk to me about something, whatever that is, I can easily schedule a video conference with you and chat a while. It's no longer necessary for me to drive 10 miles or 150 miles round trip, get into rush hour traffic, breathe all that damn smog, and then spend 30, 50, or 100 bucks, whatever the amount is, just to find out what somebody wants to talk to me about, and vice versa. I wouldn't do that to anyone either. I wouldn't want to do that to them. So if I want to talk to someone about something, I would be very transparent about what it is that I want to talk to them about and see if they want to spare a few minutes out of their day to grant me an audience via video conference. You have to remember, back in those days, okay, we didn't have that. But today, with today's technology, we can do that. So it's no longer necessary for us to continue with the same practice, with the same routine, what just because that was the customary way of doing things back then. All right, so the worst thing that could possibly happen is that they don't respond to my invitation. Yeah, I want to talk to you about something. I send you an invitation to a video conference. And if you don't respond to my invitation, I would just go ahead and make a note of that. I don't want to say put your name on a blacklist, but in essence, in reality, that would be the end result. Because if you don't respond to my invitation, I would just make a note of that so that in the event that they were to ever contact me in the future, I would grant them the same courtesy that they extended to me. That's all. Now, I have a very simple motto. No matter how famous or big that you think you are, it's really all a damn illusion anyway. And it's just a sign of arrogance and stupidity. So always treat everyone that you come across with courtesy and respect because you never know when you might need them on the way down. And anyone who's lived long enough on this little planet of ours knows too damn well that life comes with plenty of ups and downs. The people that you least expect to come to your rescue are the ones that normally do. And the ones that you do expect to be there right by your side when you need them the most are normally the ones that are nowhere to be seen for one reason or another. All right. So, who are these other people that I tell about social media water cooler? They are founders or key personnel at nonprofit organizations who contact me directly or send me their promotional information for one or more of the following reasons. Number one, it could be for donations. Number two, it could be to support a cause or campaign, like sign a petition, call your congressman, etc. Have done plenty of those, even though I know it's really a waste of time. Just a shell game. And who else? Founders of charitable organizations who would like us to sponsor their organization or partner with them in order to assist them in some fashion or another. Who else fall into that category of others who contact me? They are founders and key executives of startups who are trying to get the word out about their business, about their new venture. And the last major category of others who contact me, they are founders and key executives who invite me to lunch at their expense for whatever reason. Now, let me share with you some anecdotal stories about the results of some of my invitations, as incredible as they may seem. And then you will be able to see what the hell all this ranting and raving about the way most people think and their attention span of zero or near zero has to do with social media water cooler. So let's start out with anecdotal story number one. I received a personal connection request from the CEO of a consulting firm. And I'm sure anyone who's been on a social network knows the drill. You receive a personal connection request and then you reply to it. 99% of the time, it is in the affirmative, or 90% of the time. It depends on the character, of course. As for me, 99% of the time, I will just say yes. So in that case, okay, I replied to the personal connection request from that CEO. I then received some information from that new connection regarding him, regarding his services, which consist of helping out startup to mid-sized company CEOs to become better leaders, more productive, and to help them increase their bottom line by some impressive ratio. And along with that information came a request for me to schedule a free one-on-one consultation. During the following few months, I received several follow-up emails from that connection regarding that free consultation offer, along with some reading materials, some articles, etc. So to start with, I have absolutely no interest in this sort of service. Outside of the first few years of my life spent in the United States Air Force, I have been in business all my life. I love getting up in the morning to do what I do, which is why I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, up before that. That's why I'm doing this at 5 o'clock in the morning. So to continue, I love getting up in the morning to do what I do. And I have no need for a business coach. I'm too damn old to learn new tricks. I have different priorities in life, and I could care less about improving my bottom line. 20 or 30 years ago, I probably would have been curious about this sort of thing. Therefore, to go ahead and schedule a free one-on-one consultation with a business coach or leadership coach, whatever the designation is, would have been or would be a complete waste of my time. However, that being said, just because something isn't good for me doesn't mean that it's not good for everybody else. I remember when I first started in business 38 years ago, like most young entrepreneurs, I was flying by the seat of my pants and really didn't know squat. It was all trial and error. That's not to say that I would have done anything differently. It's just that it's probably something, the services that this gentleman is offering is probably something that I could have kept an open mind about and at least hear him out. since the initial consultation is free. Therefore, in the spirit of social media water cooler, because this is what social media water cooler is all about. It's not about just me and me and me and me and me and the hell with everybody else. The selfish way that people operate, on the net. Something doesn't benefit me, but it'll probably benefit others. So why don't I give him the exposure that he might need? I'll give him an opportunity. So I went ahead and sent him my standard reply, which in essence states the following. It's not word for word, but I'm paraphrasing. Basically, it states, thank you for your information and free one-on-one consultation offer. In connection thereof, go ahead to this registration form and select a 30-minute time slot on any Saturday between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, USA. So you can go ahead and make a 15-minute video presentation on social media water cooler to me about your company and your products and services. And during the final 15 minutes, we'll have a question and answer session. Of course, I get to ask the questions. Moreover, instead of just making your presentation to only me, you can go ahead and invite as many other potential clients out there that you think might be interested in what you have to offer. We all get to hear it at the same time. So it's a chance for you to kill 10 birds with one stone. Now, this is the kind of opportunity that any bona fide salesperson or sales executive would die for or should die for, right? Think about it for just a few seconds. You contact someone to make a presentation about your company's products and services. And that person, you're lucky enough to have that person reply to you to say, sure, no problem, go ahead and pick a date and time. And while you are at it, if you have any other prospective clients out there, any other prospects out there that you'd like to hear your presentation, why don't you go ahead and invite them too? However, you don't have to invite anybody else if you don't want to. The choice is really yours. It's your call. That sounds like a no-brainer, right? You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. You don't need any kind of sales experience. You don't need any kind of education. You don't need to be an MBA. That is as clear cut as it gets, right? Well, guess what happened next from that person who sent me about 4 different emails to try to secure a meeting with me? Not a peep, not even a reply, gone with the wind. Now, there are only 2 possible reasons I can think of why a sales executive of this caliber would have cold feet and disappear into the sunset. Maybe he doesn't work on Saturdays, not even for 30 minutes, in order to make a presentation and get an opportunity to get a new account. He doesn't know that I'm not interested. And who knows? Maybe after I hear him out, I probably would have given it a second thought, although it is highly unlikely. But there would have been an opportunity for him, even if he wasn't interested, even if he sensed that maybe I wasn't interested. But you get an opportunity to come in and make a presentation, not only to the person that you wanted to make a presentation to, but as well, I'm sure that I'm not the only prospective client out there. I'm not the only prospect. So you get a chance to make a presentation to maybe 10, 15, 30, 40, 50 other people, or 100, or at least you get to invite them. Doesn't necessarily mean that they'll show up. But at the very least, you would have had a chance, okay, to make a new, a higher level contact beyond the walls of a social network, because he is one of my contacts. At least he would have had a chance to say, "Hey, Pierre, how are you?" after his presentation. Maybe there are other things that we could talk about. Or perhaps, maybe he caught stage fright. Or perhaps maybe he didn't want to expose some sleazy or dubious sales practices to the public. He didn't want to come out into the open. Maybe one on one on the phone, that's fine. But video conference, been broadcast out to the public. I'm only speculating. But the point is this: this is a CEO of a company whose job, at least, that's what it says, that's what his website says, that's what his email says, whose job is to mentor other CEOs. We're not talking about CEOs of one man show, but CEOs of small to mid sized companies. So his response to this situation is frightening, to say the least. Now, let me give you my opinion on this. Regardless of the reasons, regardless of his reasons, if someone who worked for me was given a similar opportunity and pissed it away in that fashion, and if that ever came to my attention, I would have fired that person on the spot. That's for gross incompetence. And that's why I started out my presentation with all this ranting and raving, attention span of zero, and so on. Because he actually saw no benefit beyond the way that he's accustomed to doing business. He could not think out of the box. So let's go on to story number 2. Same thing as before. Received the connection request, accepted the request. New contact sends me information about the company's products and services and request a one-on-one meeting. Again, I gave the same reply. But this time around, here is what happened next. The connection, the new connection replied and said, da 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 da. Can you tell me what you want to see or show me some examples of previous presentation so I'll know what to give you? I was really shocked. So my reply to him was, it's not my job to tell you how to make a sales presentation. So take care, take good care. Now let me give you my opinion on this one. Ouch, this is embarrassing. I keep having nightmares about the fact that I could have somebody like that in my organization, pissing away similar opportunities. And short of having to monitor every sales executive's email account on a daily basis, there is absolutely no way for me to find that out. I would never know that one of my people is pissing away on such opportunities. So this is downright scary, to say the least. So how about story number 3? Again, same thing as before. Received a connection request, but this time from a Professor Dr. X. Accepted the request. Professor Dr. X sends me detailed information about his background, his activities, his tenured faculty position at one of the most prestigious universities in Asia, information about an upcoming summit, sponsorship information, and an interest in partnering with VOMI, and request for a meeting. By the way, this is someone who's been a contact of mine on another social network for over 7 years. Whereby over those years, okay, we've communicated with each other on many occasions. Again, I pretty much offered the same opportunities to my colleague. But this time around, here is what happened next. Professor Dr. X replied to me and said, da da da, thank you for the opportunity. However, I'm very busy and won't have time to make any 15-minute presentation. So why don't I go ahead and give you my opinion on this one as well. You see, he was the organizer of that summit. And so he only had one specific focus in mind, tunnel vision, which was to sell me a summit sponsorship package using a specific methodology. So Everything else was basically smoke and mirrors, trying to impress me, all in furtherance of his single minded goal. So anything that deviated from the script, from his script, made him reach out for his bailout parachute. And so we'll talk about that later. Now, what he did not know was that, number one, this is an event being held in China that I was very much interested in sponsoring. As well, I wanted to be one of the speakers at that summit because I would have been the only person on the planet talking about virtual organization management. I would have been the only qualified person, speaker, to talk about the virtual organization management discipline, being that I am the founder of the virtual organization management discipline. And I was thinking about making arrangements to make a virtual presentation at the summit. Something that I intended to bring up during the 15-minute Q&A session. And the worst part of it all is that this is someone who had contacted me. I didn't contact him, he contacted me and wanted to have a meeting with me. And yet, when I gave him that opportunity, he pissed away on that opportunity because he was too narrow minded. That was outside of his comfort zone. It did not matter whatever it is that was written on that piece of paper, all the information that I provided to him. It's as if okay, I hadn't written anything at all. It's as if it was a blank piece of paper. And that's why, and that's what I meant by attention span of 0. So he was just too narrow minded. He could not think out of the box. This was new information, that information, I'm not familiar with that. What's wrong with this right here? That's not the response that I'm expecting. And goodbye. Didn't take time to analyze that information at all. So why don't we go ahead and proceed to story number 4. Same thing as before. Received a connection request from a Dr. Y. Accepted the request. Dr. Y sends me information about his background, meaning additional information about his background, activities, interests in partnering with VOMI, and request for a one-on-one meeting. And over the following months, next couple of months, I received a number of follow-up emails requesting such meeting. Again, I pretty much offered the same opportunities to my colleague. But this time around, here is what happened next. Dr. X replied and said, da da da, interesting, very tempting. How big of an audience are we talking about? It's like someone coming to you. Well, it's like Zucker, right? It's like Zuckerman comes to you and says, hey, I've got a nice platform here, a social platform where you guys can communicate with each other. You can set up an account and build up your own network. And the person says, you say, here, you can have an account with us. It's free. And the person says, how big of an audience are we talking about? So I'm not going to get a Facebook account or a LinkedIn account or a Zing account until you tell me how big of an audience we're talking about. We're only providing a platform. And there is nothing in the information that we've sent out that even implies that you are going to, that we are a David Letterman show, or we are a late night show, or the Tonight Show, or that you are going to Oprah. There is nothing in the information that we've sent that implies that at all. But that was the question that the person asked me. How big of an audience are we talking about? And my reply was zero. You bring your own audience. That reminds me back in the days, back in 1994, when we started to approach a lot of businesses, we said, here, get a website, put your business on the internet. And they said, how many people, they asked me the same question, how many people will come to my store? I said, as many as you want. It depends on your budget. The store, having your website does not guarantee you that 1 million people are going to be coming to you. It's just a platform. And social media watercooler is just that, a platform where you get to invite your own audience. But again, and then I didn't hear from Dr. X at all. So he didn't even care to come and meet with me, to come and meet me and to partner with me. He didn't care to even come on the show. He didn't follow up at all. So let me give you my opinion on this particular story. What the hell does the size of the social media water cooler audience have anything to do with anything? So it's as if Dr. Y or Dr. X, a master of critical thinking, never bothered to read any of the information that he received about social media water cooler and just assumed, as 90% of the others who received my invitation to take advantage of this opportunity that social media water cooler offers. So he assumed that this was an invitation to appear on the Oprah Winfrey show, or maybe on the David Letterman show, or the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. It's as if he only had a third grade education and did not really know how to read. He ignored every damn bit of information that he received. He could not think outside the box. His preconceived notions totally clouded his mind and vision. I'm sure that now you're beginning to get the drift in terms of where I'm going with this. But we're not there yet. I still have quite a bit more to go to get my point across. I know for quite a few of you, I've probably already gotten my point across, but there is more to it. Wait for the surprise. There is a surprise at the end, or there is a surprise ending. So now let's go on to story number 5. Same thing as before, but this time it comes with a strange twist. Received a connection request from attorney friend, that's what I'll call him, and former client, going back over 30 years. That's what makes this one really strange. He happens to be an awesome guy with a great personality. Very calm, level-headed person. So I'm not talking about some complete stranger. I'm not talking about someone I've just met on a social network that I don't know anything about. So gladly accepted the request. Then attorney friend requests a meeting for lunch. Now, haven't yet been able to do lunch. However, in the course of a phone conversation, I mentioned social media Watercooler. Attorney friend showed interest and wanted to receive an invitation. And attorney friend signs up for event presentation, and in a text message asked me point blank, how many listeners will be there at that 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. meeting during that presentation? I was a little bit flabbergasted, to say the least. So my response to him was, I don't know and I don't care. I can get as many people as I want to get there at that time. However, that's not my focus. And since he is an old friend, I thought that I'd be more charitable and explain to him that our business model is different and that we can discuss that at a later date. We can schedule a meeting, a video conference. Well, it's the exact situation I experienced with Dr. Y. But it is as if attorney friend, a very brilliant attorney, I might add, never bothered to read any of the information that he received about social media water cooler and just assumed, as 90% of the others who received my invitation to take advantage of this excellent opportunity, that this was also an invitation to appear on the David Letterman show or the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. He ignored every damn bit of information that he received. So his preconceived notions of how things are done when you appear on a show totally clouded his mind and vision. So the information that I sent to him meant nothing. Because he had certain preconceived notions about what going on a show is about. It's 1 million people who are going to be there. You're going to be famous overnight. So now let me give you my opinion on this. My attorney friend just pissed away a golden opportunity because that was just the beginning of a string of other things, of other opportunities, a river of other opportunities that I had in mind for my colleague. I would rather go on social media water cooler every week if somebody would let me. Of course, being the founder of social media water cooler, I will be here every week, God willing, inshallah. So I would rather go on social media water cooler every week than go on the Tonight Show for 5 minutes. You see, the Tonight Show stays famous and gets filthy rich. Sponsors, advertisers, and so on. But as for you, after your 15 minutes of fame, then it's back to the real world. You're back to square one. Whereas on social media water cooler, I can bring my own audience to deliver meaningful content and then develop my own loyal following that I can take with me wherever I go. When you go on the Tonight Show or on Oprah Winfrey's show, you can't take any, there's no following for you to take any place with you. You're gone, that's it. You're nothing but a distant memory. A year from now, 2 years from now, if you say, unless you reminded someone that you were on that show, but it's 1 million people that come on that darn show. How are they even supposed to even remember who you are? And I know plenty of people who've been on Oprah and Letterman and so on. You've got a lot of people who've been on Fox News. They said, I've been on Fox, I've been on CNN, and so on. But who are these people? I don't even know who the hell they are. So they have no loyal following. These people are loyal followers of these shows, of Fox, CNN, of Sean Hannity, or Glenn Beck, whoever else, okay, whoever it may be. But they're not your followers. But people are having an extremely difficult time grasping the magnitude of the opportunities that have been presented to them via social media water cooler. So that was my opinion. That was my take on this. Why don't we go ahead and go on to story number 6? We're getting close to the punchline, folks. Story number 6, okay, it's the same as before. Received a connection request, accepted the request. Connection sends me information about his background, his charitable organization activities in Kenya, his interest in wanting to partner with VOMI, and request for a meeting. Checked out the website of the organization, saw that it was a worthy cause, and again, I pretty much offered my colleague the opportunity to be not just a guest on social media Watercooler, but a co-host. That means he gets to invite guests to social media Watercooler. In other words, anybody who can potentially help his organization. That is a very prestigious position and awesome opportunity. He gets to invite anybody, anywhere from around the world, from government officials in Kenya, business leaders in Kenya, but not just Kenya, but he's got the world at his disposal. Anywhere in Europe, Asia, other places in Africa, and so on. Here in the Americas, the United States. That would have been an opportunity for him, okay, to shine a little bit of light on his organization, to let people know what he is doing. Because to just appear on a social network like Zing or Facebook, you'll get absolutely no exposure at all. Or the exposure is almost next to nothing. But this time around, here is what happened next. I am going to refer to this particular gentleman as Kenya Connection. So Kenya Connection replied to me after he received my invitation, replied to me and said, da da da, thank you for offering me the co-host opportunity. And then proceeded to say, can you tell me more about your organization? He said, we can partner with you and help you do business in Kenya. And I can meet with you on this particular date, okay, and we can talk over Skype, etc. It's as if everything that I sent to him, it's as if, okay, he didn't understand anything at all. So why don't I give you my opinion on this? I said, what the hell is this? It's as if Kenya Connection never bothered to read the simple instructions that I sent to him on how to proceed. Now, do you want to know how to become a co-host once you have actually received a specific co-host invitation from me? All you have to do is send me an email to specify the co-host time slot that you are interested in. For example, you could say, I want to be a co-host from 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, USA. That's all. Once I receive that information, then we'll go ahead and take it from there. So he had plenty of opportunities to talk to me about anything and everything else. So after that response of his, he left me no choice but to go ahead and cancel my co-host offer and instead invite him to be a guest, which is still a great opportunity. And of course, guess what? He walked away from that as well. He never replied. I guess now you are beginning to see the connection between my introduction to this presentation and what is happening with social media water cooler, with these invitations, with these guests, with these invitees. So, last but not least, let's move on to. I thought I'd save the best for last. Let's move on to story number 7. Now, this one right here has to do with a person who is not a connection of mine. We have never contacted each other, but I happen to know him very well. And I also have a great deal of respect for his intellect. He is not a client, friend, colleague, associate, or family member. He's been very much aware of social media water cooler for a very long time. Its tremendous potential and everything that it has to offer, not only to him, but also to all his clients, friends, colleagues, and associates. If you have a bounty, if you have a good fortune that you cannot share with friends, colleagues, associates, even with clients, then what good is it? Then what's the use of having that bounty in the first place? In any case, this person has been so damn busy doing so many things that he just kept putting off giving social media water cooler his undivided attention. Now, a lot of times, I've even wondered to myself out loud, what in the world is going through his freaking mind? And how come he's not given social media water cooler his undivided attention? We're talking about a man who is so damn idealistic, someone who thinks that he can save the world or die trying. In a very strange way, it seems Like, he fits the profile of those people that I just mentioned earlier at the beginning of this presentation. People with a near zero attention span who operate on automatic mode and who approach every single message that they receive with certain what we call preconceived notions about the message itself, regardless of what they see and hear. People who are in a deep hypnotic trance when it comes to absorbing new information or taking advantage of new opportunities, no matter how great and awesome these opportunities may be or are. The truth is, I wouldn't want to have anything else to do with him when it comes to social media watercooler. If it weren't for the fact that despite his flaws and stupidity, I love him a lot. So if it weren't for the fact that I love him a lot, I would tell him point blank to his face, hey, listen, buddy, you screwed up on an awesome opportunity that I made available to you. And it's now gone. As the old saying goes, opportunity only knocks once. I know you're probably thinking, Pierre, you've been very erratic. You've been very harsh. But you see, I can't do any of these things to him because he is me. I am that person. Social media watercooler is not a brand new, this is something that I started 3 years ago and that I basically put on the back burner. So, in conclusion, you will notice that regardless of education, experience, nationality, background, there seems to be one constant undercurrent to all of this. The human mind operates in mysterious ways. Anytime it comes across anything new, no matter how simple or complex, and no matter how hard or easy it is, it requires almost the same amount of time to adjust to a new thinking or process. Doesn't matter how smart you are, doesn't matter who you are. So, which takes me back to the beginning of this presentation when I rhetorically asked the question, what the hell does social media watercooler have anything to do with all that stuff about how the mind works? And therein lies your answers, these 7 anecdotal stories that I just told you. So here is what I am hoping that you will do after today's presentation. Go ahead and take the time to read the information that was provided to you. And please do not filter that information through filtered lenses. It is in plain third grade English. It is what it is and nothing else. Don't try to read anything else into it. There are no ulterior motives. It is what it is. Just follow the simple instructions. That's it. All right. So now that both you and I have awakened from our deep hypnotic trance, let me give you some ideas on how to make effective use of social media water cooler. For salespeople, if you don't currently have a Google Plus account, I would strongly suggest that you get one. Not a question, I strongly suggest get one. So get a Google Plus account and then go ahead and create a social media water cooler circle. So from your Google account, go to Google Circles, create a social media water cooler circle, which consists of a decent list of prospective clients. Not just well, that's for salespeople. Yes, prospective clients. And then go to social media water cooler, go to the site itself, the page on our site at VOMI. You can Google it, just put in social media water cooler, and it will pop up. And from that page, go ahead and request to make a guest presentation. That's assuming that you did not receive an invitation from me and you are in the public domain here. And just request to make a guest presentation. It's right there. It's not rocket science. Just click on the link, take you to the place where you can do that. Now, once your guest presentation request has been approved, you will be provided with a link to the event. As well, you will be requested to submit a very brief bio. It's got to be very brief. Please don't send us 10, 20 pages. We're not asking for a CV, a curriculum vitae. All right, and a small photo for presentation on our VOMI website. Actually, it's on our blog. It's not the main website. For guest announcement purposes. So send us a little brief bio along with a little small photo. It doesn't have to be a small, you don't have to send us the photo. We don't, just give us a link to the photo and then we can take care of that. So that we can list it on our website for guest announcement purposes. And also we'll place it on the guest registration form. And then you can go to your Google Plus account and invite all members of your social media water cooler circle to hear you speak, along with a link to your brief bio that is listed in the guest announcement on our website. That way they get to know a little bit about you before, okay, they meet you here on social media water cooler. Now, during the event, as step number 7, all invited audience members will have an opportunity to ask questions. So we do have what we call, do have a questions app, as well as have access to your relevant site, sales and marketing materials. And we also have what we call a showcase window. So any sales and marketing materials that you want to provide to your client, they would be listed there as well. So you'd have to send us that information. And at the end of the event, you can then follow up with all invited audience members who attended your presentation and send them a special thank you note along with a link to the video presentation, which includes the timeline of your presentation. So they don't just send them the video presentation, the entire thing, but at least let them know starting at 65 minutes so that they don't have to endure a full 4 hours of conversation from guests that they may not be interested in. With respect to the other invited audience members who did not attend your presentation, you can just go ahead and send them a special "We Missed You" note along with a link to the video presentation. That's why it really doesn't matter how many people attend. We're not concerned about a viewing audience at this point. So I don't need to have 10,000 viewers right now this second during the live presentation. Once word of mouth goes out, and once we are ready, in fact, we're not even inviting too many members, too many people in the as far as viewing audience, because we expect the instructions that I'm giving to you right now are the same instructions, are the same procedures, that we follow ourselves. We can send out to over 1 million to 3 million as far as our social network contacts. And whether we get 5% or 10%, we actually take the time to view, click on the links. And we can also determine, how many people have actually taken the time to view the video presentation. In any case, so to go back to, let's see, procedure number 7, actually procedure number 9. So with respect to the invited audience members who did not attend your presentation, so you can send them that special "We Missed You" note along with a link to the video presentation, which also includes the timeline of your presentation, starting at 65 minutes. Now, here's what will happen. Even though you'll tell someone that here's the video presentation, here's the link to it, you can start at 65 minutes, but a lot of people, they're going to start anyway at the very beginning, just out of curiosity. And after they've heard a few, then they can say, all right, good, let me go ahead and switch on to the part that I want to hear. So that is the beauty of this. There is no homogeneity in terms of audience. We all get to bring in our own audience. So you're not coming in to talk to a bunch of radicals. So it's not a place for people who want to complain about the government. I'm the only person, who complains about our political system. And every time I get a chance, I talk about that because I want to change the world. But not everybody want to change the world. Some people, they just want to sell. So when you come here, you can just go ahead and make your presentation and sell. So if someone was thinking about coming on social media Watercooler and they said, well, let me see what kind of audience it is. Well, you're dead wrong. You're making a big mistake. So what kind of people frequent this place? You're making a big mistake. Because you get to bring your own audience. It's irrelevant. If I bring in 10,000 people, looking for the content, unless of course, okay, it's a den of spies. Unless of course you have people, pedophiles and so on. I can understand maybe you, but it says social media water cooler. Please don't look a gift horse in the mouth. All right, so to continue, and then you can go ahead and compare the results of your social media water cooler initiative with your legacy effort. Because you have to remember, you can continue to promote this one single video presentation with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 million if you never make another, if you never appear on social media water cooler again. So that's the sort of opportunity that has been presented to you today. All right, so number 10, you would compare the results of your social media water cooler initiative with your legacy efforts. Say, how well are we doing using this method versus the legacy method that we've been using? Contacting prospects, scheduling one-on-one meetings, and so on. Say, how does that work? This new approach, the social media water cooler approach, how does that work? Versus my versus the old method, the old antiquated method. I call it antiquated. All right. And then you are welcome to request to make another guest presentation for the following week, if it is available, if the slot that you're asking for is available. But again, it's every Saturday. If the slot that you want is not available this Saturday, then maybe the next one. And if your guest presentation, if your new guest presentation is approved, then you can go ahead and follow steps, all the other steps, all over again. All right. I want to give you some special tips. Number one, social media water cooler is a live social platform, which is about building one solid and meaningful relationship at a time with both social network contacts and current and prospective clients. That's very important. Why do I call it a live social platform? Because that's exactly what it is. It differs from your typical social network experience. When you go to Facebook or LinkedIn, or even your regular Google Plus communities, how do you engage with your connection? How do you engage with other group members? Chatting, in a sense, in the comment sections. Someone says something silly, you never get a chance to have a meaningful conversation with someone. The most that you do is maybe provide them with a link to an article, or maybe a link to your website, a link to something that you are promoting. And that's the extent. That's the extent of your relationship with all these contacts, with all these connections, okay, that you've made. In other words, I don't call that solid and I don't call that meaningful relationship. So I call that a hollow relationship. You're not people that you've ever talked to. People make one little slight comment and then you respond to it. And that's basically that. So social media Watercooler is a live social platform. So here you get to actually, you can even exchange, you can even have a dialogue with someone. And we're not just talking about chatting, making little comments. You get a chance to actually make a presentation to someone, gather your thoughts, and talk about something that has meaning, something that has significance, or something that you believe has meaning and significance to the people that you are communicating with. So it's not a shotgun approach. You actually get to select the people that you want to hear the message that you want to impart to them. That's why you don't want to you don't want to have 10,000 people listening to you when none of them are interested in what you have to say. Maybe there are a dozen at the most. So to have 50 people or 10,000 people listening to you makes no sense. And they're not going to stand there and continue to listen to you. You're not going to have a captive audience. And so that's what I mean by social media Watercooler is a live social platform, which is about building one solid and meaningful relationship at a time. So if only one person shows up and you get to make your presentation and after that 15 minutes, then you get that question and answer session. With just one person, you've accomplished much more than you've done in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years been on social networks. So by establishing a meaningful relationship with someone, you have absolutely no idea where that might go, where that might take you, how it might blossom. But you'll never get that opportunity unless, of course, you are on a dating site or a porn site. So with social media Watercooler, with our emphasis being on building solid and meaningful relationships one at a time, not just with your social network contact, but also with current and prospective clients. Just because they are your clients today doesn't mean that you can't. I'm sure you haven't met all of them. And if you have met all of them, that is an additional way, okay, to nurture, to deepen the connections, to deepen the contacts, to deepen the bonds that you establish, that you've already established with your current clients. So what does that mean? Then that means you are no longer focused on making 10,000 useless connections on a 100 or 200 different social networks and groups, which amount to nothing but a complete waste of time. So that means you are no longer on autopilot mode. You're no longer in that hypnotic trance. You're no longer in robot mode, in robotic mode. So that's tip number one. How about tip number two? Social media water cooler is your social media headquarters. That is the power of social media water cooler. It is a central location where you get to effectively communicate with number one, all your personal connections and group members across all social networks. And what do I mean by effectively communicate? We'll talk about that in a second. So not just with number one, all your personal connections and group members across all social networks, but number two, your current brick and mortar contacts as well. People who are not even part of your social network, but people that you know, contacts that you've made that over the years. They're probably in Rolodexes and so on. And third, all current and prospective clients. So it is your social media headquarters, that central location where you get to quote unquote effectively communicate with all your personal connections and group members across all social networks, your brick and mortar contacts, and all your current and prospective clients. What this means is that instead of jumping from social network to social network and posting or replying to a bunch of random, mundane, ridiculous, or silly comments on your social network profile page, or a bunch of groups, communities, and so on a daily basis, or trying to do that on a daily basis. And even if you didn't do it on a daily basis, to do it just one day alone, okay, is just a waste of time. You can take that time instead, okay, use that time to develop and deliver meaningful content to your connections and contacts on a weekly basis. There is no law that says that you have to communicate with people on a daily basis. And the people who do, that's only they're trying to maintain a visible profile. The people that you see, you'll probably see maybe just about the same number of people on that one man page, that one man profile page on that social network. You see the same names all the time because they're trying to remain visible. Because the minute they stop making comments, then they wall off that page, they wall off into the sunset. So now you no longer have to do that. You don't have to jump from social network to social network. You don't have to keep posting. You don't have to keep comments. You don't have to reply to comments, just so that you can get a what they call a good social profile score. use that time instead to develop good content. You get 15 minutes to talk to someone. That's once a week. So it's not like going to Oprah or Late Show with David Letterman or The Tonight Show, where you get to have your 15 minutes of fame and then just disappear into the sunset. Instead, it is the place where you get to invite your contacts to come and participate in meaningful discussions on a particular topic. So the procedures that I just outlined to you earlier by using your Google account, your Google Plus account, and your Google Plus Circle account, okay, and the various circles. And even with these circles, there are a number of things that you can do with this circle, with your social media circle, Watercooler circle. You can go ahead and take it and even segment that, break it down into people who actually respond to your invitation versus people who don't respond, and so on. You can break them down into various categories. People who are very close contacts that you've made versus regular contacts, and so on, versus excellent contacts. So there are a variety of things that you can do, a variety of ways, okay, um, to manage your contacts and to monitor the results, okay, of your activities. So that's very important. Tip number 3. Social media water cooler gives you control over your social media destiny. So what do I mean by that? It's no longer, now you can actually take concrete action. You can actually plan your activities. You can always, the contacts that you've made, you have to remember, we don't have these contacts. Your contacts remain, okay, on in your circles. We don't have that information. You do. You invite whoever shows up, okay, shows up to listen to you. As you accumulate these contacts, okay, from all these contacts that you have from all those various groups, from all those social networks that are sitting in the various Google circle or your social media water cooler circle on Google Plus, they are yours. You get to take them with you wherever you go. If you decide not to use social media water cooler anymore, you can take them with you because we don't have your list. And you get to decide what kind of messages that you want to impart. You get to decide what you want to share. You get to decide who you want to uh, who you want to communicate with and how, and so on. All right. There's one thing that I would like to say is that it's just a regular disclaimer. I want to be very clear that I cannot guarantee that you will be able to make a guest presentation every single week. This privilege is only reserved for co-hosts. So if you want to be guaranteed a spot, a weekly spot, let's say every week from 5:30 until 6 a.m., for example, then if you are a co-host, yes, we can reserve that for you. But as a regular guest, as an invited guest, then you'd have to every week go ahead and register, select the time slot that you're looking for. And if it's not available, or if it is available, then of course it's yours. If not, then we'll advise you to select some other time slot. So when I said social media water cooler gives you control over your social media destiny, how does it do that? For example, with respect to marketers. As a marketer, the first examples that I gave you had pretty much to do with salespeople. How does it benefit, for example, marketers? Really the same thing. Almost. Almost the very same thing. So why don't we go ahead and go you would still follow steps 1 through 13. I believe that's what the total numbers. No, 1 through 12. And except that your presentation would be more focused toward branding than sales. That's all. How about with respect to people who approach you out of the blue, meaning out of nowhere, trying to sell you something or wanting to schedule a one-on-one meeting with you, as I had illustrated earlier with respect to those individuals who have contacted me. So if you are a co-host, then you have the same capabilities that I have. You can invite as many number of guests, okay, as you would like to invite. And who would these guests be? People who are approaching you out of the blue, trying to sell you something. How about with respect to old friends and acquaintances who contact you and want to have lunch as well? Again, as a co host, you are able to do that as well. You are able to invite them to be your guest on social media water cooler. So I am not the only one. Whatever it is, whatever power it is that I have, you have the same power. And whatever it is that we are offering, you as a co-host can make the very same offer to your old friends and acquaintances, okay, who contact you as well. What about founders or key personnel at nonprofit organizations who contact you directly, who send you their promotional information? You can do the same thing as well. You can invite them to be your guest on social media water cooler. What about founders of charitable organizations? That's as a co-host, by the way. Everything that I am talking about now has to do with co-hosts. People who want to learn more about you, about your business, about your whatever it is that they want to know. People who want your support, people who want you to sponsor whatever it is that they are, whatever activities that they are engaged in. People who want to partner with you as a co-host, you can do that as well. Startups, they want to help to get the word out. Say, no problem, you invited. And when you invite them, they can invite their own specific audience, whoever it is that they are targeting. And last but not least, people who invite you to lunch, even if it is at their expense. But just the fact that you have to drive for 10,000 miles, even if it's not 10,000 miles, just to get in that rush hour traffic and lose a whole half a day, you have that opportunity as well. You can invite them to be a guest on social media water cooler. The idea is that, as I had mentioned earlier at the very beginning, or maybe the middle of this presentation, what good does it do if you've got a lot, if you have something, but you're holding it all, to yourself, for yourself? So social media water cooler is not about one man. So it's not something that's owned by Zuckerman and Zuckerman only or other shareholders. It belongs to all of you. I don't make any distinction between the person who is struggling, who's just starting out. I don't make a distinction with respect to age. I don't make any distinction with respect to experience. If you're just starting out, you could be 17, 18 years old, straight out of school. If you are in high school, you want to participate, that's fine with me. Because when I was 15 years old, 16 years old, I had a brain. You couldn't tell me any different. I was smarter than a lot of adults, or at least I thought so. And today I know so. Because for a lot of adults, they're nothing but grown kids. That's it. Old kids. All right. So this social media water cooler belongs to all of you.